Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for attending this off-campus debut of Dramatic Pause. We'd like to remind all of you to please turn off all your cell phones and pagers and anything else that might make noise. We'd also like to remind some of you that are seated in the first rows, first maybe second rows, that you might get wet, but it's momentary splashes, and some of you are okay. But we apologize for any inconvenience. With that, we'd like to ask you just enjoy the show and good night.
There was water in dry land, there was no discernible shoreline. No way to walk on the one or swim and sail in the other. There was neither reason nor order until at last a god sparked, glowed and shone like a beam of light to define the earth from the heavens and to separate water from hard ground.
Once these distinctions were made, matter began to behave. The sky displayed its array of stars and their constellations, a twinkling template of order. The sea upon which they shone quickened with fish, and the woods and the meadows with game, and the air with twittering birds, each order of creature settling into itself.
A paradise it would seem, except one thing was lacking: words.
And so, man was born. He was born that he might talk.
Some say the god perfected the world, creating of his divine substance the race of humans.
Others maintain that we come from the natural order of things.
But one way or another, people came, erect, standing tall, with our faces set not to gaze down at the dirt beneath our feet, but upwards to the sky in pride. Or perhaps, nostalgia.
What would you do with all the money in the world?
What a question.
You know what I do? Would you want to know what I do?
No,
I'd never do laundry again.
that's it? That's the big dream?
Among other things.
Do you want to hear a little story?
About rich people?
Yes.
Always.
There was a certain king named Midas, net worth 100 billion.
fact, money's a good thing. A thing to be longed for. A necessary thing. And my God, I have a lot of it. Wasn't always this way with me. The boats, the houses by the sea, summer cottages, the winter palaces, the exotic furnishings, the soft clothes, the food, and money. Stop that now. Still now, Daddy's talking. Excuse me. The outrageous food, 200-year-old wine. No. Wasn't always like this. I was born poor and I worked hard all my life. Still do, mind you. My father was a minor manufacturer in somewhere. But I was born with a head for business. And it's always been as though everything I touched has turned to gold. Not literally, of course. Wouldn't that be something? Turn to profit, I meant. And, sweetheart, Daddy asked you, be still. Now, take it inside. See this pool? Cost a pretty penny, I can tell you. But all it takes is hard work. Plain and simple. And those who haven't got it in them, well, what can anyone do? They just haven't. Be still! You're driving me nuts already! But you know, I never forget that I do it all for my... Let's see, it's all for my, it's all for the, family! Yes, that's what it's all for. Family is the most important thing. One's own family, I mean. Not anyone else's, for God's sake. When I get home at midnight, 7 days a week, in the moments before sleep, I realize that. Oh yes, family is what really matters.
Sir,
Yes, what is it?
this man's been making trouble in the town. We believe he's a vagrant, sir, of the worst, most drunken kind.
Hello, King.
What should we do?
Nice place.
Execute him?
No need, no need. In my day, I've certainly been 3 sheets to the wind.
What the hell are you talking about, King? I'm all around up.
Even last week at the feast.
Let me tell you something. You know what?
No, what?
Let me tell you.
Yes?
Let me tell you something.
Yes? All right.
I've been all over the world.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I'm lost now, but I have been all over the place.
How very fascinating. If you'll excuse me.
You're listening? Well, let me tell you. There is a country beyond this one.
Very interesting, but if you'll excuse me.
No, listen. I strayed from the crowd, and I'm lost now. But there is a country.
Africa.
Further.
Asia.
No, further. Over the ocean. I've been there.
Oh.
King, I tell you, it's like a dream. A dream! I am telling you that in this place, the people, they see each other. They live in this place without a desire of any kind. And so time, there is no time. Just the blue sky above, and they got the pretty moon at night, and they got the meadows under
Well,
their feet.
Thank you. This has been most entertaining, but if you'll excuse me.
And the people live forever.
What?
They live forever. They never die.
What is it? Some herb. They have something in the soil. Something in the air. Something we could distill. I have shipping fleets, you know, to bring it.
No.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes?
is that your daughter?
What? Yes. Go on! Be still for once in your life. Go on.
You're rich indeed.
Go on! It's an animal. Even better if it's an animal. We can breed them here.
My God, the millions.
Don't worry, young man, you'll get your cut.
No.
Yeah, go on. It's not an animal. What is it? What is the secret to eternal life?
It's here.
Formula. You have it. Go formula.
No, it's here.
What?
And here.
That. The inner life. What uselessness. All right then, off you go. You may sleep in the cabana.
Thank you.
Oh, for God's sake, turn him over. Someone! Turn him over before he drowns.
Night fell, but when the rosy-fingered dawn came back again,
Midas! Good Lord. Who's there?
It's Bacchus. I hear you have a follower of mine.
Oh, follower.
Yes, Silenus. He wandered from our group as we passed close to town, and I hear he's with you.
Ah, yes. Fellow in the cabana. Take. He's all yours.
I'm grateful that you didn't turn him away, Midas. That you took care of him and saw that he didn't drown in his condition. And I'd like to present you with a gift.
A gift?
Some ability. A minor miracle, really. Something to do at parties.
Anything.
Anything at all.
You promise.
Of course.
Then grant me that anything I touch, everything I put my hand to, will turn to solid gold.
That's a really bad idea.
What do you mean it's a bad idea? It's a brilliant idea.
Think about it, Midas.
Oh, you think about it. You get your oath, for God's sake. Follow through.
All right, then.
and from that moment on, everything he touched turned to solid gold.
Wait a minute. Let me think where to begin.
He went out walking. With every step he took, the gravel under his feet turned to golden nuggets. Delighted, he put his hands on branches of trees and flowers, and he had gold branches and flowers. All day long he experimented, almost insane with happiness that the whole of the world could become his personal treasure. Late at night, he stumbled back into the courtyard, laden with precious gold.
Papa!
No! Take it away. Bacchus, take it away.
I can't.
No, you can, you must. Take it away now.
I'm sorry.
No, take it away now.
There is one way, Midas.
What? What is it?
Walk as far as the ends of the earth. Find a pool of water that reflects the stars at night. Wash your hands in it, and there is a chance that everything will be restored.
Was that too sad for you?
A little.
All right then. Here's another.
Queen Alcyone, daughter of Aeolus, master of the winds. These two adored each other and lived in a monotony of happiness. But nothing in this world is safe.
It isn't true.
It is.
One day Alcyone had heard that Ceyx had ordered a ship to be made ready for a sea voyage to visit a far-off oracle.
How can you leave me alone? I'll pine in your absence. Over land, it's a long and arduous trip, but I'd still prefer that to a voyage by sea, which I fear for my father's winds are wild and savage. You think as his son-in-law you may get some special treatment? Not so. Once they've escaped my father's cave, those winds are wild and beyond anyone's control. As a girl, I watched them come home exhausted and spent, and I learned to fear them then. Now I am petrified, surely, she said. If you die, my life is over, and I shall be cursed with every reluctant breath I draw.
My love, I hate to choose between my journey and you, but how can I live this way? Stranded on shore? Afraid? Domesticated? Diminished? Kind of lapdog.
Take me with you at least, and we can meet the storms together, which I fear much less than being left a widow.
In 2 months' time, I'll be back.
No, I fear you won't. I know you won't.
In 2 months' time. For that short time, be brave and endure the trials of waiting.
She was hardly consoled. She saw she could not hold out any longer in the face of his resolve. She allowed herself to be soothed and consented to his going. There were no more details left to be checked. No last-minute changes to make. And the men, ranged on their benches, were ready to row and go. He boarded and gave the sign. And then he turned to wave at her. She waved at him while the ribbon of black water widened between the ship and the shore. She gazed at him until he was no longer distinguishable. She could still see the ship. She narrowed her eyes to the horizon and watched it as it receded into a smaller and smaller object. And then, the whole hull was gone, and only the sails remained. And then they too disappeared. She gazed still at the empty and desolate blue, and then went to her empty bedroom to lie on the huge and vacant bed and give herself over to weeping.
The vessel cleared the harbor and caught the freshening wind, which set the rigging to singing and slapping against the spars. I ordered the rowers to ship their oars, and the sailors to set the yards and make sail. Our ship ran before the wind. We made satisfactory progress all that day, and had reached a point of no return, with as much blue water astern as remained ahead.
But as the sun was sinking in the west, the water, everywhere blue until now, began to be flecked with the white-capped waves sailors dislike. The weather was worse with every moment. The winds were on the loose.
Reef the sails! Bail the water! Secure the spars!
Poseidon and his henchmen had arrived. The rest was one enormous green catastrophe.
He thinks in an oddly abstracted way that the waves are lions crazed with hunter's wounds, or that the ship is a besieged town attacked by a horde of madmen. One would think that the heavens were crazed with lust to join the turbulent sea, which returned their bizarre passion and tried to rise up and embrace the air.
The men had lost their belief in their captain, their courage, their nautical skill, and even their will to live as they wait for the end. One weeps and groans aloud. Another, no braver, is silent, dumbstruck. One calls on the gods for mercy. Another curses his fate. And one says one word.
Alcyone.
Again
Halcyone, my treasure, Halcyone.
And this is the end of the world.
O gods, hear my modest prayer, that my body may wash ashore at her feet, where she may with gentle hands prepare to be buried.
Nothing left but the slow parade led by Hermes to the underworld.
One, 2, 3, 4, 15, 16, 17, 18, 98, 99, 100. One, 2, 3, 4, 15, 16, 17, 18, 98, 99, 100.
Look at her, Iris. She's moved her vigil down to the shore, and now she's sleeping there.
98, 99, 100. Ceyx, come home. I'm near now. I'm sleeping on the shore. It's not so far until you see me.
This can't go on forever. Go to the house of sleep and ask him to arrange a nighttime visitation. A dream that might show her Alcyone the sorry truth. Far off, in remotest Campania, beyond where the Cimmerians dwell in their gloomy caves, lies a deeper and even darker grotto, the home of sleep. In this place, the sun never can, even at midday, penetrate with the faintest beams. In that cloudy twilight, no rooster dares disturb the silence with his rude crowing. No dog or nervous goose gives voice to challenge the passing stranger. Not even branches sigh in occasional passing breezes. An almost total silence fills the air. The heart of an almost painted stillness. In a huge darkened chamber, the god himself relaxes, drifting in languor. Around him, the fragments of ill-assorted dreams hover over the floor in grand profusion. Like leaves, the trees have let go to float and fall through their currents of air into their gorgeous billows below.
Hello?
Into this strange and breathless place. Iris, the rainbow intrudes.
Oh, somnolent one. Somnolent one, wake up. Mildest of all the gods, soother of souls, healer of wearied and pain-racked bodies and minds.
Iris! Let me rest a moment. Iris! What do you want?
Devise, if you can, some form to resemble King Ceyx, and send it down in a dream to his wife, the Queen Alcyone. Let her know the news of the wreck of his ship, and the death of the husband she loved so well. Sleep. Do this for us. Can you? Farewell.
Morpheus! Morpheus! Come and change your shape to that of King Ceyx. Go to his wife. Go to her and tell her he is dead. That's good. That's very good. Now go.
Sir, you seem like a seafaring man. Can you tell me, where is my husband Ceyx? Have you seen him on the sea? When is he coming home? His ship is strong and unmistakable. Have you seen him, sir?
Do you not know me? Has death undone me so?
No.
Look at me. I charge you, look at me.
No, I won't.
Look at me and know your husband's ghost. For your prayers have done no good. I am gone, beyond all hope and help forever.
Go away!
I am not some bearer of tales, but the man himself to whom it happened. Look at me, my little bird.
I told you. I knew it would happen, and I begged you not to go. I knew the day you sailed I had lost you forever. The ship, my hopes, and my life grew smaller all at the same time. You should have allowed me to come.
Little bird.
This is no good. No good that I should be living and you be elsewhere, nowhere. I'm drowning now in the air. I am wrecked here on the land where the currents are just as cold and cruel.
Get up from your bed and put on your mourning clothes.
Wait for me. Come back. Where are you going? Wait and I'll go with you as wives are supposed to go with their husbands. Lucina! Lucina, bring me a lantern. Ceyx! Come back. Where are you? Come back. He was here. Where is he? Where is he?
All that night, she searched along the shore for her drowned, dreamed husband. But she found nothing, not even footprints. Only wave after wave of black water. When morning came, she narrowed her eyes to the horizon and remembered how she had looked on that other day. She remembered his last kiss. The way he turned to the ship, could not bear it, and turned again to her.
What is that out there? Oh, it is a man, alas, poor sailor, for your wife.
But the gods are not altogether unkind. Some prayers are answered.
Ceyx, is this how you return to me?
She began to run to him, but as she ran, crying, a strange thing happened. By the time she reached him, she was a bird. She tried to kiss him with her bill, but by some trick of the ocean's heaving, it seemed his head reached up to hers in response. You ask, how could he have felt her kiss?
But better ask, how could the gods not have felt it? Seen this and not had compassion?
For the dead body was changing, restored to life, and renewed as another seabird. Together they still fly just over the water's surface, and mate, and rear their young. And for 7 days, each winter, I'll see any brood on her nest that floats on the gentle water. For Aeolus, her father, that keeps the winds short rein, and gives every year 7 days of calm upon the ocean. the days we call the halcyon days.
Quick Metamorphoses te van explicando atrás las cosas que van pasando con los dioses y cómo se transformaban. Eso es mitología griega.
When you see a miracle like that, how can you deny the existence of the gods? Believe it or not, there are some that do. There was a man called Ersikthon who scorned the gods and declined to sacrifice on their altar or do them honor. Nothing was sacred to him. He only looked for the usefulness of things. One day he found himself in a grove sacred to Ceres.
Cut it down.
Sir, that tree is centuries old.
We need the wood. Cut it down.
Sir, this is a sacred grove, and this is a tree beloved by Ceres.
It's only a tree that the goddess likes. But say it was the goddess's sale. I'd cut it down just the same.
Sir, please.
Get off me, you past son of a bitch!
And he tore the tree down.
Sir!
Who's that?
I am the tree itself speaking! My pangs of death are eased by one thing.
And what might that be?
That you will never get away with this.
Oh, now I'm really frightened.
But the goddess Ceres heard the cry of her tree, and her mind immediately began to move upon the torments that she might inflict.
Oriad!
Yes?
There is a place in far-off Scythia. Nothing grows there, no grass, no wheat, no trees. There you will find huddled together cold, fear, and gaunt hunger. Tell hunger I command her to visit this brute and establish a home for herself in his belly. I give him to her as a toy.
I will.
I would go myself, but it is forbidden for hunger and I ever to meet. Oread flew off to the Caucasus, a bleak and nightmarish region. There, in a field of stones, crouched Hunger, pulling from between the rocks with her teeth and filthy fingernails some tiny bits of moss. Her hair hung down in lank and matted locks. Her eyes were sunken and circled. Her lips were slack and cracked. The vaults of her ribs stuck out, as did every bone in her body. One could count the knobs of her spine.
Hunger? Ceres commands, or rather permits you.
Yes!
To go to.
Yes!
To go to Ersikthon and never to leave him until he is finished.
Gladly. Hunger crawled through the sky to the house of the victim. As she flew overhead, fields withered and men starved. The birds scattered from her path, too weak to fly. It is night when she reaches Ersikthon's home and curdles through the halls until she finds him sleeping in his room. She wraps cadaverous arms around him in an embrace as strong as love, but quite the opposite of love. She breathes her spirit into his spirit, and he begins to dream.
Pastries, cheese, grapes.
He wakes.
Bring me something to eat. Anything. I'm starving.
But he can't wait to be served. He begins to eat everything in sight. Meal after meal after meal after meal. But he can't shake this hunger.
More. I need more. More to eat.
Baked shrimp and marshmallows, salami and ice cream, liver and donuts. Everything in every possible combination. Even as he eats, he is planning other menus and complaining of his hunger. As the ocean ingests the waters of the rivers of the world, but still is never filled and remains thirsty and so guzzles more and more forever, so he calls out for more.
It isn't enough. It isn't enough.
His gorging empties the larders and storerooms, the warehouses and barns of the city. His hunger is unabated. What is left to sell?
Mother?
My son!
Come with me.
Now, this next part is true, though you may not believe it. His hunger led him to sell his poor, his darling mother.
She doesn't look so strong.
She is. We've had her forever.
I can't give you much.
Just give whatever. Just give it to me.
All right then.
With the few coins he received, he ran home to eat. Riding in a boat behind her new master, Ersikthon's mother leaned over the hull and prayed to someone she once knew. Poseidon, if you remember me, come and save me now. From the briny deep, Poseidon heard her prayer, pulled her into the water, and changed her back into the young child who used to play along his shore. The salty water licked the years away until she emerged, the one who gave him praise in childhood, shouting as she ran among the waves. This is the kind of sweet, unbidden praise the gods adore and do not forget.
Hey! Hey, you little girl, listen up. Where's the old woman who was here a moment ago? Did she dive overboard and swim to shore?
Sir, I swear by the God of the sea that no one except myself has been to this shore. I swear it.
To this day, at every hour, somewhere in the world, you can still catch a glimpse of that child playing by the shore. But now let us return to our king. It was not enough. The money she earned for him was not enough for his needs. The emptiness within him was unappeasable. You've seen such men yourself, I'm sure.
I need more.
The godless are always hungry,
More!
always yelling at waitresses.
I want more!
There can be only one end to such a man. He will destroy himself.
Bon appetit.
You've heard of Orpheus, the greatest musician of all time, and his bride, Eurydice. His was the unluckiest of wedding days.
Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum.
Orpheus and Eurydice. Number 1, Ovid AD 8. Orpheus, the widower bridegroom, mourned her in the upper world, but his grief was limitless. Inconsolable, desperate, he left the warmth and sweetness of our air. He dared descend the river Styx and crossed it to the underworld. Through Through that dim domain, with all its shimmering buried ghosts, he passed, until at last he arrived at its melancholy heart and found its king lying with Persephone. He knelt down before them, drowning in his grief. As Orpheus sang, the pale phantoms began to weep. Tantalus was no longer thirsty, and Sisyphus sat on his rock to listen.
Orpheus, turn around. Eurydice? Your song has moved us, Orpheus, and you may have her on one condition. As you ascend and leave this place, she will not walk beside you, but she will be following. You must not, until you pass our gates, turn around and look at her. If you look at her before you reach the sunlight, she is ours forever.
I understand.
Hermes will accompany you. Remember, hesitation or doubt, and our gift must be returned. A simple enough condition?
It ought to have been. The singer led the way as they ascended the sloping path through the murk. A long way they traveled, almost all the way. But you know what happened. Concerned for her, or not quite believing it wasn't a trick, a cruel delusion or a mirage, he turned.
Farewell.
That was his last sight of her. But he saw it again and again.
Farewell.
Is this story the story of love and how it always goes away?
Farewell.
Is this a story of time and how it can only move in one direction?
Farewell.
Is this story the story of an artist and the loss that comes from sudden self-consciousness or impatience?
Farewell.
Orpheus and Eurydice, number 2, Rainer Maria Rilke, AD 1908.
said to himself they had to be behind him. He said it aloud and heard it fade away. They had to be behind him, but their steps were ominously soft. If only he could turn around just once.
But looking back would ruin this entire work, so near completion.
Then he could not fail to see them. Those other two followed him so softly.
The god of speed and distant messages. A golden crown above his shining eyes. His slender staff held out in front of him. And little wings fluttering at his ankles. And on his left arm, barely touching it, she.
A woman so loved that from one lyre there came more lament than from all lamenting women. That a whole world of lament arose in which all nature reappeared. Forest and valley, road and village, field and stream and animal. And that around this lament world, even as around the other earth, a sun revolved, and a silent star-filled heaven, a lament heaven, with its own disfigured stars, so greatly was she loved.
But now she walked behind the graceful god. Her steps constricted by the trailing grave clothes.
Uncertain, gentle, and without impatience.
She was deep within herself, like a woman heavy with child, and did not see the man in front, or the path ascending steeply into life. Deep within herself, being dead filled her beyond fulfillment, like a fruit suffused with its own mystery and sweetness. She was filled with her vast depth, which was so new, could not understand that it had happened.
She had come into a new virginity and was untouchable. The sex had closed like a young flower at nightfall. And her hands had grown so unused to things that the god's infinitely gentle touch of guidance hurt her like an undesired kiss.
She was no longer the woman with brown eyes who had once echoed through the poet's songs, no longer the wide couch's scent and island, and that man's property no longer.
She was already loosened like long hair, poured out like fallen rain, shared like a limitless supply.
And when, abruptly, the god put out his hand as if to stop her, saying, with sorrow in his voice,
He has turned around.
she could not understand, and softly answered, Who?
Far away, dark before the shining exit gates, someone or other stood, whose features were unrecognizable.
He stood and saw how on the strip of road among the meadows, with a mournful look, the god of messages silently turned to follow the small figure, already walking back along the path, her steps constricted by the trailing grave clothes.
Uncertain, gentle, and without impatience.
one time a wood nymph named Pomona, whose skill in the care of plants and trees has never been equal. She hardly noticed the rivers and forests, but loved the fields and orchards. They were her passion, her life. She didn't disdain Aphrodite so much as ignore her. She kept aloof from any suitor. There was, however, one suitor, the god of springtime, Vertumnus. He was
In love.
with her more than all the rest.
He adored her.
In the manner of the Shire gods, he used to disguise himself. He would put on a straw hat, a working man's shirt, and stick haystacks behind his ears to look like some storybook yokel.
Howdy!
When that produced nothing, he thought he might hold in his hand a pruner, trying to look like a field hand who tends to the grapes in their arbors. After the complete failure of that, he came with a ladder, to seem as though he were bound for some nearby orchard to gather apples. With wig, costume, and makeup, he once tricked himself out as a soldier, romantically returned from foreign wars. Another time, he set himself up as an ordinary fisherman, fishing in her path on the chance she might pass by. He waited from dawn to dusk, passing from boredom to terror, and back again.
The point was just to be near her.
Stand there and gaze at her beauty.
Maybe to wish her good morning,
Or,
good afternoon,
or,
good evening.
before he plodded on by.
I live for these trivial moments.
One day, he put on an old woman's dress and a wig and wandered through the green, green hills until finally he found his beloved standing in the lavender.
Lovely. Truly lovely. But you, miss, are lovelier still. Just look at that, would you? And think how that tree and vine complement each other, complete each other. Separate, they're not much, but together, they're splendid. There's a lesson in that, my dear, one that you might consider. The way you've been keeping to yourself is no good. It's a sad violation of nature, as well as a waste. A lover is what you need to make you complete as a woman. You'd have many choices, I think, as many as Helen. But there is one in particular I would recommend, Vertumnus. I know him as well as I know myself, and I warrant, I guarantee, that his eyes are for you alone. Consider, he's young, attractive, healthy, and strong. You two share the same taste, for he likes trees and gardens almost as much as you do. Besides, he's fun and likes to take on various disguises. It's a game he likes to play. Believe me, you may take these words that I speak as if they were coming from his own mouth.
None of this was working.
Listen, aren't you afraid of offending Aphrodite? Don't you know the story?
What story?
The story of Cinyras, his daughter Mura, and Aphrodite?
No.
So, he began to tell her.
Part 1, the mistake. There was a girl, like you, named Mura. She too ignored Aphrodite. She wouldn't fall in love. There were suitors everywhere, but she was blind to them. Finally, Aphrodite had had enough and seized her with a passion.
So?
It was a passion for her father.
That isn't true.
It is.
You can shut yourself in a room, bolt the door, but love will come through the window. Draw the curtains, lock the casement, but love will seep through the walls. Never think that you can be safe from love.
She struggled hard against her passion.
Oh God, I pray you keep off this wickedness. Make me a daughter to my parents. Even to think what I am thinking is a crime. Or is it a crime? Who would condemn such love as crime? The animals I have seen will do as they desire. The ram will go to a ewe he has sired, and birds will make a nest with those the nest once held. How happy they are to be so free. But we have laws! And yet there are countries I have heard that have no such laws, where in the dark the bonds of love already strong might be made perfect. Why do I keep thinking these things? Leave me alone! He is the best of men, the best of fathers! If I were not his daughter, then I might lie with sinners. But I am his daughter. You've been virtuous in body, Murrah, and I'll be so in mind.
Murrah,
Father?
why are you crying?
It's nothing. Nothing.
Why should a girl like you be sad? We have students at our door every day, yet you keep refusing them and weeping in the corners of the house. Is there someone special that you're hiding?
No.
Then what are you waiting for?
Nothing.
None of them pleases you?
No.
What sort of husband would you like?
One like you.
May you always be such a good, sweet girl.
Midnight came, and sleep crept in the palace to fold men in his arms. But Murrah could not sleep. Tangled in a dream of her father, she tossed all night long. Caught between her shame and her desire, like a tree once wounded by the woodman's axe. It first leans one way in the wind, then another, hesitates, but always falls.
Part 2, the solution.
Mira! What are you doing? My child, what are you doing?
Leave me alone, nurse.
What is it? I'll help you whatever it is.
The old are not altogether helpless.
Has someone bewitched you? The spells may be broken, or have you crossed some god? Still, you may look to appease by sacrifices or prayers, even the heavens' anger. What else can it be? Your mother and father are well. I know. It is love. It must be love, but I can help you. Whatever it is, whatever you want, I swear by the gods to help you. Only tell me, your father will never know.
Stop it!
But why?
Go away or stop it! Stop asking why I grieve. Is a crime the thing you are trying to learn? Crime.
This went on and on, but the old nurse would not give up.
Oh, mother. Mother, happy in your husband.
What does your mother have to do with it? Oh, child. Whisper in my ear and tell me I am wrong. What? I swore to help you, and now I must. Tomorrow, your mother leaves for the feast of Ceres. She will be gone 9 days. Your father will drink. He will be likely, as any man can be, to listen to my suggestion. That a pretty girl adores you, loves you, and wants to visit your bedroom. Can't she?
She's attractive.
Yes! And young.
How young?
Your daughter's age?
All right then.
There's only one condition. She's very shy and is afraid for you to see her.
How charming.
Part 3. The corridor.
In the small hours of the night, when all was still in the palace, when the moon had fled from the sky and the stars were concealing themselves in a shroud of cloud, she set out for her father's apartment. She stumbled, recognized this as an omen, but nevertheless turned down the hallway. She continued down the corridor, clutching her nurse's arm for support. The hallway is apparently endless. But then, too soon, they arrive at the door.
Your girl is here.
Part 4. Unnameable.
Full of her father, the girl slips out of the room, guilty, but shameless.
There's nothing to fear or hope for now.
The next night, she returns.
Because twice is no worse than once.
And the third night, she's back again.
Let me see you.
No.
I want to see you.
No.
Let me see you.
She escaped into the darkness. Out of the room, the house, the city, into remote and exotic lands, even as far as the Arab wilderness.
Oh, gods. I pray you change me. Make me something else. Transform me entirely. Let me step out of my own heart.
Someone must have heard her prayer, for she did change.
Some say she changed into a tree.
Some say she gave birth to a boy called Adonis.
Others contend she dissolved into tears.
And this last, it's not a mere expression, some rhetorical turn of poetic and hyperbolic trope, but simply the unadorned, terrible truth. She stepped into a shimmering stream and began to dissolve. Her body melted.
And then she was gone.
This story got Vertumnus nowhere.
Why are you wearing that ridiculous wig?
I don't know. I don't know.
Take it off. And take off that idiotic dress.
I'm embarrassed.
Take it off.
When the god finally revealed himself just as he was, much to his surprise, he found he had no need of words. Little Pomona was happy with what she saw, unadorned and undisguised. Soon enough, the vine was clinging to the tree.
Well, my parents were separated when I was really little, before I was even born. It was sort of a one-night sort of thing, except it was in the day, in a meadow, where my mother went to watch my father pass by every day. Oh. Anyway, I always knew who he was, and I would see him pass by every day, of course, who doesn't? But I never knew him, and he was never really around. I mean, not around.
Where better might we find a more precise illustration of the dangers of premature initiation than in this ancient tale of alternating parental indulgence and neglect?
I went to an expensive school, and there were a lot of boys there who were, you know, sons of the rich and famous. And one day we're on the playground, and this one kid, Epiphas, he goes to me, "So, Phaeton, blah, blah, who's your father? What does he do? Blah, blah, blah." So I tell him my father's the sun. And he says, "Tell me another one." And I'm like, "He's the sun. He's Phoebus Apollo." And he just basically trampled me. Just basically beat the shit out of me like I was lying.
Neither his own opinion of himself, the regard for him, or lack of it in his peers, obviates the father's primitive role as initiating priest for the younger being. Now, it cannot be contested that the absence of this figure is, for the son, an almost irredeemable loss.
So I go home and I say, "Mom, this happened, you know, at school." She gets all upset, crying and everything, because she still loves him, and it's an insult to her as well. And I'm like, "Well, if it's true, how come there's no proof of it? It's unfair to us, you know, that there's no proof." She gets more upset and she says, "Hear me, my child. In all his glory, your father looks down upon us. By his splendor, I swear to you that you are his truly begotten son. That fiery orb you see crossing the sky each day, whose heat enlivens and enables the world and orders the days and nights, is indeed your sire. Believe me, my darling, blah, blah, blah."
When he matures beyond the customary Eden of the mother breast, the child seeks to individuate beyond its enfolding gate and turns to the new symbols of the paternal realm, thus beginning his spiritual passage from one sphere to the next.
So she tells me to go over to the valley where my father goes to work every morning and just ask him to set things straight, to, you know, do right by me. So I set out, and it's hot, and it's dusty, and it's a long way across Ethiopia. And I hitch part of the time, and part of the time I walk, and finally I get there. And the hill is steep.
But this passage is never easy.
At the door, my dad's secretaries, the hours, the day, and the centuries. But they recognize me and they say, "Go on in." And there he is, all shining and golden. He's so bright I can't even look at him. And you know what he says to me? He says, "My son, you are welcome."
My son, you are welcome.
"Speak Phaeton to your father."
Speak Phaeton to your father.
You have no idea what this was to me. So I tell him everything, you know, I just spill my guts. He listens to me. And then he says, "Let me grant you a favor.
Let me grant you a favor.
Whatever you ask shall be yours."
Whatever you ask shall be yours.
And he swears to it.
The conventional exordium of the initiate, from latent to realized potential, is inevitably accompanied by a radical realignment of his emotional relationship with the imago of parental authority.
Now, there's only one thing I want. I mean, it's obvious, right? I say, "Give me the keys to your car." Immediately he starts backpedaling, saying, "Oh, it's his job.
It's my job.
And no one else can do it.
You can't
and
do
that
it.
up in the sky there are the bull and the lion and the scorpion.
There's a scorpion
out to get me." And I say, "Give me the keys to your car. I want to drive it myself across the sky. It's my turn. You promised. I want to light the world today."
The father, or his substitute, must be assured before transferring the symbols of adult vocation that the son is no longer operating on infantile complexes. Complexes that might dangerously redirect his new task through the unconscious prompting of self-aggrandizement, personal preference, or even resentment.
"Where have you been all my life, Dad? It's my turn. Hand it over." So he hands over the reins. But he won't stop giving advice, you know, like,
Don't fly too high.
Don't fly too high.
Or too low. Stay on the tracks. Go
Go
slantwise.
slantwise.
On and on. But I didn't listen.
Myths are the earliest forms of science.
It was over before it began. It was chaos, okay? Out of control, as if no one was driving. You know, my knees were weak. I was blind from all the light. I set the earth on fire, and I fell. And it just destroyed me, you know? I was just completely and utterly destroyed. O-V-E-R. Over.
It has been said that the myth is a public dream. Dreams are private myths. Unfortunately, we give our mythic side scant attention these days. As a result, a great deal escapes us, and we no longer understand our own actions. So it remains important and salutary to speak not only of the rational and easily understood, but of the enigmatic things, the irrational and the ambiguous, to speak both privately and publicly.
Who's that?
This is Eros, god of love.
Why does he have wings?
So he can move quickly from body to body.
Why is he naked?
To make us transparent.
To make us what?
Transparent in our love. Foolish to others. Exposed.
Because in love we are so ignorant and so compulsive?
There's that.
What else?
He's blind to show how he takes away our ordinary vision. Our mistaken vision based on the appearance of things.
Who's this coming down the stairs?
Her name is Psyche.
Psyche? Her name is Psyche?
Yes.
What's she doing here?
She's married to the god, but she's never seen him.
Well, why is that?
Because he forbids it.
Well, how did they meet?
Psyche was so beautiful, the goddess Aphrodite hated her. She sent her son to punish her, but he fell in love instead.
Does she know that he is a god?
No, she suspects he is a monster.
Have they had sex already?
Oh yes,
And how was that?
it was good.
Then why does she suspect he is a monster?
Her jealous sisters told her so.
And she listened to them?
Unfortunately, yes.
So now she's coming to see him as he sleeps?
Yes.
To make certain?
Yes.
With her eyes?
Yes. She's very young. It happens all the time.
She doesn't trust what she has felt herself.
Not with the radical trust we need.
What does the word psyche mean?
In Greek, it means the soul.
What's going to happen to her now?
She's going to suffer.
And?
She's going to suffer.
And?
She's going to suffer.
Well, what does she have to do?
She's given horrible, lonely tasks by Aphrodite.
Such as?
Sorting thousands of seeds, one from the other.
How did she manage?
Some little insects help her.
Like in fairy tales?
Like in all fairy tales.
What else?
She has to go down into the underworld and fetch various things.
Wasn't she afraid?
She was petrified, but she did it all the same.
Well, wasn't it hopeless?
It was hopeless, but she did it all the same.
What did Love do in the meantime?
He healed his little wound. It hurt him so much when she looked at him like that. The wax from the candle fell on him and burnt him.
How does it end?
She finishes her tasks, and Zeus declares enough's enough.
He overrides Love's mother?
Yes. And further, he gives Psyche a special potion, and she becomes immortal. And then he declares that their marriage will last forever.
Does it?
Of course.
So, this story has a happy ending.
It has a very happy ending.
Almost none of these stories have completely happy endings.
This one is different.
Why is that?
It's inevitable. The soul wanders in the dark until it finds love. And so wherever love goes, there we find our soul.
It always happens?
If we're lucky, and if we let ourselves be blind,
Instead of watching out.
instead of always watching out.
If you will indulge us, we have one more tale to tell. A coda, if you will. It happened that one night, Zeus, the lord of the heavens, and Hermes, his son, came down to earth to see what people were really like. They disguised themselves as two old beggars, stinking and poor, ragged and filthy. They knocked on 1,000 doors.
Hello? Do you have any spare?
Get out of here! Get the hell out of here! I will cash my money!
And 1,000 doors were slammed on them.
Hello. We're old, we're tired, we live on the street, and we hoped you might...
I'm sorry. I'm, so sorry. Sorry.
At last, they came to a little hut on the outskirts of town.
Why bother knocking here? We've knocked on houses of all kinds. Homes of people with plenty to spare. Whoever lives here obviously has nothing.
Let's give it a try all the same. We've come all this way.
This is pointless. Let's just go home.
Oh, strangers! Philemon, they're a guest at our door.
Hello. We are strangers to these parts. We've lost our way.
Francis, why are you standing there? We must bring our guests inside.
Do you know us?
Of course.
You do?
Yes.
Then who are we?
Why, you are children of God. Come in, come in.
Satisfied that their disguises had not been seen through, the immortals lowered their heads and entered through the doors.
No, don't sit on the floor. Sit on chairs, as quality people do.
Philemon ran to get another chair.
And Baucis fetched 2 pieces of cloth to pack them so the strangers might rest easily. She stirred the coals in the hearth and fanned the fire to cook them a meal.
Philemon set out the embroidered cloth that they saved for feast days.
Baucis saw that one of the legs of the chair was short, and she propped it up with a shard of a pot.
Philemon set out a plate of olives, green ones and black, and a saucer of cherry plums.
There was cabbage and roasted eggs.
For desserts, there were nuts, figs, dates, and plums.
And a basket of ripe apples. Remember how apples smell?
At last, with a show of modest pride, they brought out a bit of honeycomb for sweetness.
Philemon poured wine from a bottle. But as he filled the glasses of the guests, he saw that the bottle remained full.
And then they knew.
Oh, mercy! Mercy!
You are divine, and we've served you such a simple meal. Mouses, go and kill the goose.
No, let it live. We are gods, and we thank you. You have done enough, more than your nasty neighbors thought to do.
Suddenly, everything was changing. The poor little house, their simple cottage was becoming grander and grander. A glittering marble column temple. The straw and reeds of the thatched roof metamorphosed into gold, and the gates with elaborate carvings sprang up as the ground gave way to the marble paving stones.
Old man, old woman, ask of us what you will. We shall grant whatever request you make of us.
Having spent all of our lives together, we ask that you allow us to die at the same moment.
I'd hate to see my wife's grave or have a weep at mine.
The gods granted their request. Arrived at a very old age together, the two stood at what had once been their humble doorway. It was now a grandiose facade.
And Baucis noticed her husband was putting forth leaves, and he saw that she too was producing leaves and bark. They were turning into trees. They stood there, held each other, and called before the bark closed over their mouths.
Farewell.
Walking down the street at night, when you're all alone, you can still hear stirring in the intermingled branches above the ardent prayer of Baucis and Philemon. They whisper,
Let me die the moment my love dies.
they whisper,
Let me not outlive my own capacity to love.
they whisper,
Let me die still loving, and so never die.
Thank you.